Hi, Panache. Welcome.
Hi, Reed. Thanks for having me.
I'd like to start off with you just telling us a little bit about how you got started in all this spiritual stuff. I know you have quite a story from your youth and how you got started doing it, so I'd love to have that shared with the Hay House audience.
My journey began for me really even before I was born. In India we have this tradition of self-actualized and self-realized masters. And so for 4 generations we'd met these beings. And the incredible thing about these beings is that in their presence you come into the conscious remembrance of who you are. That you'd have an energetic interaction with them, that it was deeper than what they were saying, it was deeper than the message that they were conveying, that actually there was a felt presence that was being delivered through them to the people that would come to see them. And so before I was born, my mother had a stillborn baby girl. And so when she was 3 months pregnant with me, she went to India to be blessed for my birth by one of these beings. And he actually said that, you know, I was incarnating for one sole purpose, and that was to be here in a spiritual capacity and to facilitate the shift in consciousness. And so you could say that it was all laid out for me. And, you know, I was born into a family of meditators and chanters. They would have public programs in their house, and the first 5 years of my life were spent with my grandmother. And she'd pray every day, Read, and never forget it, she'd smell like coconut oil, and she'd burn incense in all the house, and we'd listen to all these sacred chants and mantras every single day. And for the first 5 years, I existed in this absolutely pristine vibrational environment where everyone's sole focus was on God and devotion and love. And subsequently I began to have experiences as I got older. I could feel everything inside of everybody. I knew everything about everybody, and I didn't want to know any of this stuff. You know, as a kid I just wanted to watch the A-Team and Airwolf at the time. It was my other favorite show, and I wanted no part of it. But when you're Indian, on the weekends, what you do is you watch Bollywood movies and you go see spiritual teachers. That's what you do. And all the spiritual teachers we'd go and see, they'd say, "We've been waiting for you. You know, thank you for incarnating. And you have our blessing, and when you're older, please come and see me." You know? And so it became this running joke. You know? It's like we'd go everywhere we'd go, it's like they were waiting for me. They knew who I was. It's like everybody knew more about me than I did at that time. And again, like people would sit next to me. They would, I remember at about 6, 7 years old, you know, all these things were happening. People would sit next to me and they just felt encumbered. It's like life had just gotten the better of them. And they just felt weighed down and heavy. And they'd sit next to me and they'd start experiencing their sadness, their anger and their fear. And they'd start telling me their entire life story, and I'd look at them like I'm 7, you know, it's like, you know, I really don't want to know all of this, you know. And so it just further compounded my weirdness, but they'd get up, and at the time I'd say that they were sparkly. They literally started glowing. It's like their energy had completely shifted, and they just felt like they'd been relieved of a burden. And again, it made no sense to me. And so that was my childhood, and I got to a point like most people in my teens where I rebelled against it and rejected it and tried to fit in. And I think trying to fit in was one of the most painful times of my life. It was excruciating because I was constantly needing to turn myself into somebody else other than who I'd been created to be. And I got to a point where I just couldn't take it anymore, and needed to go away on retreat for some time just to kind of get clear about, okay, who am I really, like, why am I here? And this spiritual thing has been a constant theme for me my entire life. You know, how do I get back to that? This spiritual expression is my soul signature. And so I went on retreat for 6 months and went through an extremely cathartic peeling away of everything that was false, everything that I had been told, you know, I needed to be, all of the ways I need to show up, like, you know, for example, the judgment around anger and sadness and fear and all the rules and regulations that we get that are just false. All of that started to be lifted off me. And it culminated in a point where I just really just cried out to God one night. I just got to a point where I'm just like, you know what, if I'm here to be a messenger, then I need to experience you, whatever you are. Because until I've had that experience, there's no way I'm going to, you know, sit here with Reed Tracy or whoever I'm sitting with and look people in the eye and tell them that this is who they are. Like, it has to be authentic for me. So I just got to a point where, you know, being who everybody else wanted to me was just too painful. And I got to a point where I just called out to the divine and just said, you know what, if I'm really here to be a messenger and this is my role, then I have to experience who or what you are. Otherwise there's no way I'm going to do it. If it's not authentically coming from me, then I can't stand in front of an individual or thousands of individuals and tell them that this is who they are. That yearning led to a direct experience of what we know as God or the divine. And God or the divine is nothing more than an infinite ocean of energy with no beginning and no end, that vibrates at the most powerful resonance of love you have ever experienced in your life. There is no judgment. There is nothing to learn, nothing to make up for, nothing to fix, and there is nothing broken. In truth, that experience showed me that we are all whole and complete, and that now it's important for us to once again accept all that we are, so that we can come into the conscious remembrance of this truth, that we are infinite beings with an infinite potential, that we are more than just a body and a mind. We are something transcendent, something eternal, something that is so infinitely powerful that when remembered, it has the ability to transform every single aspect of life and living. So for me, that's when this role officially came into being, and my skepticism ended. Was when the divine revealed itself to me in its formless, infinite expression. In that moment, I also began to realize that we as human beings are having the same conversation in different ways. It's like we're all articulating the same experience. It's just we're doing it differently. And then we're all just vying for whatever our version of the truth is. Well, in essence, it's infinite. So if God's infinite, then nobody's wrong. Everybody's included in that. So that led to so many wonderful experiences and traveling and being with people, and then at that point I could fully embrace my role, could fully live my soul signature, who I'd been created to be, my most authentic expression, and allow that to be the catalyst that brings transformation to people in their lives and reminds them to be that in and of themselves every day.